So
And it
you
was my
need to make sure that next week when John does his presentation, that'll be my first day of employment. And so make sure that Steve hits the record button during John's because I'm really interested.
We'll
Uh,
do that. And this is being recorded, so you got that part already in there. I hit the record button. So it is my privilege to introduce Brian Clarke to share his job search journey that it came to an end, which we hope that happens to everybody sooner than later.
yeah,
Brian, it's all you.
it's a trial to go through the job search. This is the fifth time looking for work in my 38-year career. And I went back and looked at some information I collected. In 2018, it took me 60 applications and 9 months to get a job. In 2020, it took me 67 applications and 4 months. And this most recent time, 51 applications in about 4 months. And it was actually 2 months from the time I applied to the time I got an offer on this job that I'm taking. So, and I can look back and I can say, it's not. I know some people are much more prolific in sending out resumes, but for me, it's a pain for me to send out resumes. I don't like doing it, and sometimes I customize them, sometimes I don't. But um, anyway, I got a call at home from my manager on December 4th when I was home with my wife who just got out of surgery, and he said, "You're being laid off," me and 57 other people. And so that it was December. So I kind of punched out. Kind of took December off because it was the holidays. My wife was recuperating from surgery. It was just kind of hard. And then I noticed, and from looking back at, I logged all my applications, was I did a few at the beginning, and then because I had 2 months of severance, I kind of chilled and didn't do a whole lot. I did a few things along the ways, but I wasn't really in in the mode of doing it. And then I got going in February, and actually, the position I took, which is a product compliance engineer with Trove, that was actually one of the first applications I did when I really started digging my heels in and started cranking out applications. Um, so I got really depressed actually in December and January, and I would probably should have talked to somebody about it, but I would highly recommend. In fact, my company had continued their wellness program for the people they laid off, and I probably should have called somebody because it became really difficult for me and depressing doing the job search. So if anybody has those type of thoughts, I would highly recommend reaching out to somebody. Um, Typically, what I would do is I had push notifications from LinkedIn, and I also would look at LinkedIn online and go through the jobs, and also Indeed. Those are my two main sources. The problem with my type of position is that I'm a product safety engineer, but I get all sorts of hits for industrial hygiene, for environmental health and safety, and all sorts of things. I don't get many actually that are applicable. So that's kind of challenging too. It's the same old thing. I've done this 5 times before, 4 times before, and yeah, I get the same stuff that doesn't apply. So it's kind of depressing that way too. Um, but I did start customizing my resume. So if I saw a job, and it really kind of depended on my interest in the job. So if I was very interested in the job, I would spend more effort in customizing my resume and making a better cover letter. But cover letter wise, I kind of had an unorthodox cover letter that I generated, and I would send that out, and it was kind of an eye catcher, and it was different than what most cover letters do. So I would kind of default to that. But I was going to say, after I think it was Jeff Bodley did the talk about AI. Then after he talked about that, or whoever did the talk on I started. I haven't ever used AI to customize my resume, but I definitely used AI to customize my cover letters. And in fact, the Trove job was the first cover letter I actually used AI to customize, and I was pretty impressed with what it did. Stick my resume, upload my resume, upload the job description and say, please write a cover letter for this. And then, of course, you read through it and find the things that don't apply or aren't true. You get rid of those. But it did a really good job, and it streamlined the process much more. So I would actually then do it. And I used that multiple times doing the cover letters. So I found that very, very helpful. Um, I also found CPI, Career Partners International, which particularly done in Bradstreet Hoover's information to look up information on companies, to find contact information, to find out about a company, to find out what their revenue was, how many headcount they had, and things like that, to just give background information on companies. And then I actually used those two on one company that had no job posting. That I actually did two paths. I actually had a couple companies that didn't have job postings. I used that to get contact information, and then also I actually used LinkedIn. I had a colleague at my last job who actually was previously employed at one of these companies, so I got contact emails from him. So that was I've used that type of little bit of networking there. So that worked well. Um, so yeah, after AI, I did start using that more. In fact, I had an on-site interview out in North Carolina, and that had five people, a panel of five or four people interviewing me, and actually, and then in Trove, I had a panel of six plus the hiring manager interviewing me. Those are intimidating interviews, and I actually had AI generate potential interview questions, and in fact, with I don't remember which one I did it, but I actually had it, the job description, my resume, and said, what are potential interview questions? And then later I got, because I'll ask for who the people are going to be in the interviews, so I get their name and title and I can send them a thank you note. But I had their names and titles, so I uploaded that into AI and then it customized. Here are potential questions based on their interest, based on job function that they might ask you. So I found those really interesting. And also, I'm going to do a moldy oldie thing, and I'm going to put in chat. I have a hard copy PDF of potential interview questions that I really liked. And that goes back, it was from Lee Hetch Harrison when in 2018 when I had a job search. And I'll stick it in there because I find it very helpful. And I would write down the answers to those and then years ago write down the answers to those. And then before job interviews, I just breeze through those and review what my answers were. It's also interesting that I would go through and keep information on previous job searches to where, because you need to do the SOAR or whatever type of thing where you need to talk about the situation and what you did and have stories to show your skills. And so I would keep all those pieces of paper where I went through other jobs and wrote down instances where here, this situation came up, this is what I did, and this shows this. And so I'd have all those. And I found that that's really helpful for prepping for job interviews, that you have and review all the stories of all the skills you have so you don't have to recreate it every time. So I found that really helpful. And I'll stick in the chat this Lee Hetch Harrison questionnaire. Um, anyway, so those went well. It actually came down, it was interesting. Some of the tools, when it came down to the Trove, the HR person was talking to me and asked a salary question. And I said, well, I don't remember exactly my words, but what's the range that you guys are working in? And she actually fell for it and told me their range that they had for the job. It wasn't posted anywhere, but she told me because she was looking to see, and I says, "Oh, that's close to what I'm interested in." So, but it was the job number they gave me was a one-third cut in pay based on what I had been previously making. So it really kind of had me questioning, do I really want to pursue this? And that thought of, do I really want to pursue this? I have to say that the job I turned down in North Carolina, it was probably the best interviews I've ever done. And it was because I wasn't so invested in it. And I think I also had that this job I wasn't so invested in. Like, I want this, I have to get it. It wasn't that. It's like, I'm going to go in and do a good job. And I don't care. And that made my performance better because everything wasn't on the line. So it's a head game. We learned in the Olympics, it's a head game. And truly, interviewing is a head game. And I found that if I distance myself and don't try to not care as much, I do a better job. And so that was kind of a head game I was playing to both of these sets of interviews, panel interviews, which are kind of high pressure things. Um, so that's the thing. Anyway, so the negotiating, so I knew what their high end was, and I had stressed or talked to the hiring manager in a roundabout way that I was concerned about their compensation. And he said, well, the title was compliance specialist. And he says, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to recategorize this as an engineer and see if we can get the range higher. And so I'm like, oh, good, and that didn't ever come up again till the offer came and they changed it from a compliance specialist to a product compliance engineer. And the offer was $20,000 more than what their range was. And then because Steve is, not that it's about Steve, Steve is a good career coach. He says, how he says, don't you hear Steve say there's always 5K in there, isn't there? There's always 5K more sitting in their pot. So I asked for 8K more. And the problem is they came back immediately and said yes. So it's like you want to, I should have asked for 18 more, you know. It's like if they come back this quick with yes, then you didn't ask high enough. But I'm happy to get to have the job actually eight more than what they offered. And so I consider that a big success and following, you know, the advice here, it worked really well. Something else I learned was that it was interesting to me that the hiring manager says, well, hey, when do you want to start? And I said today. And then he said, well, you know, if you really want to have it take some more time, you can push it out to whatever you think's reasonable. And so I said, well, what about next week, a week from today? And he said, sure. And so my wife and I are doing a little getaway later this half a week and going up to Jackson Hole or whatever. But it was interesting because um, I went and talked to Utah unemployment, and they said, hey, if we will allow you to collect unemployment for up to 3 weeks from the time you get an offer to the time you start, and all you have to do is log in. You don't have to keep job hunt. You don't have to file for job contacts. So I'm just sharing that if you get an offer and you want to space it out, you can still collect unemployment for up to 3 weeks from when you get to the offer to when you start. So that was a nice little bonus too. So anyway, that's pretty much my job hunt. Um, this job is different than what I've normally done. This job actually is because this company makes water bottles and food contact things and all sorts of different food contact things. And the job is primarily making sure that they have the proper testing and certification and declarations for having food contact materials because all the big box stores and we ship into Europe and they need to have declarations. So you have to have all this testing and documentation to say you're acceptable to go there. And this was something I'd been exposed to, but it wasn't job function. But being 38 years in my career, I'm having more senior moments than I'd care to. And so I felt like, yeah, narrowing the job focus inside the job was a good thing. And actually, rather than trying to do everything, in fact, I ran across another job that had even more than the North Carolina job. And it's like, how many zillion things do you want me to do? And it sounds like a, you know, a recipe for failure. But having this more narrow was part of the reason I actually took less money and the commute is a good commute. It's a reverse commute going from Sandy into Lehigh, which is kind of backwards. And so that kind of it all kind of works out as being a little positive. So we'll see next Monday and see how the job goes. But I'm anticipating a good job here for the next few years. And so that's my story.
So, why don't you share if you have the company what they do? I noticed your LinkedIn has already been updated and it has the company's logo there and everything, and that's
I actually took the logo down. I figured that was a bit presumptuous till I actually was working there, but I did put the job description. So, and it's interesting because although the job starts this month, LinkedIn won't let you have a 0 month. So it says I've worked there a month already. So, hey, I already got some more experience under my belt that's not there.
okay. Let me get this gallery up here. We'll just do random as we ever do for people who have questions and I just want to say one thing. I appreciate the transparency being vulnerable because this job search is not easy. It's tough. It's tough. So um, I will go for the farthest person out today. Um, I don't know if anybody who's the farthest person away, what might be, but that would look like this guy right here,
Tommy.
Tommy, Arkansas.
Wow. Congratulations. I like your story. You seem to have a really positive take on it. I don't have any questions, but I appreciate your story.
No, that's why I also say I also when Steve does the risk Rich, it's I always say the rejections too because I got two rejections this last week and it's like so rejections are one step closer to getting a job. So I like
That's right.
rejections. And besides the companies ghost you anyway, so it's nice when they actually do something and tell you. So it's nice.
Yep.
Okay. Next up is no stranger, Desiree. Oh, She unmuted and then I hit unmute and I muted her again. Sorry.
Thanks, Steve. Um, well, so first of all, Brian, congratulations.
Thanks.
I think that's a big win, short amount of time. Super excited for you. I did have one quick question for you. You mentioned that you used AI for just your cover letter, but did you use AI to customize your resume, or did you just use one version?
I did some hand customization on the resume. I actually didn't even. I probably should have done it, but I like my resume, and so I would do little subtle tweaks if I was really interested in the job. But I never actually stuck my resume into AI in the job description and said, customize. I didn't ever do that. So I would recommend somebody trying it, but I never did. That's just me. I don't know.
Hey, another approach. Great idea. Again, congratulations and good luck.
Thank you to you too.
So as I'm picking the next person, can you explain what you mean by hand customized?
Yeah, so I mean, I would take my resume, which if you could turn the blur off there, it's
I,
you know,
I can't turn the
yeah,
blur off,
yeah.
but you
So I
can.
mean, I'd take my resume and I'd go through and if look at the aspects of the job, the different job functions, and look through that description. Or having done a cover letter, AI will pull those out and put them in the cover letter so you can see what things they're really interested in. And then go in and look and think about each of my positions because there may be a position that actually had that aspect in it, but I didn't put a bullet in my resume on it. So I will swap out a bullet, pull one that's not as applicable, and then actually write in a line that actually captured that desired job skill. So that's what I mean. So I wouldn't rewrite the whole thing. I would just look and see if there's some high points that weren't covered well, and then just swap out a bullet for the one that they were interested in and just put it in.
No. Okay. Thanks. Next up is Mike.
Yeah, congratulations, Brian.
Thanks.
I I'm like you. I'm 34 years into the work life cycle, and this is my third time looking for a new job. I've changed other times at my discretion, but
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
at their discretion. And yeah, it's no fun. I never thought I'd have to go through it ever, and now this is my third time. So, and like you, you know. It gets frustrating, getting a little discouraged. Um, I was notified last July and they gave 3 months warning and I didn't even look for the first month. I was just so upset and luckily they extended me by 4 months to train the new people that were coming on. They did a reorganization. I was global and they went to more of a regional. And so they wanted people in Africa and South America and Europe, permanent people, not just temporary jobs. So I trained them. So I got to work through February. And so I've actually only been 2.5 months now not working. But I started looking semi seriously in September and I've had multiple interviews. I've made multiple rounds of interviews, but still no job. So yeah, it's discouraging. You keep hanging in there and
Yeah, definitely hang in there. It is and you feel the age discrimination kind of thing lurking over your head, It's like, are they concerned about that? Am I missing opportunities? I had one acquaintance who actually he dyed his hair. I remember we saw him and his hair was darker brown. I'm like, what'd you do? He says, I'm interviewing. I'm like, okay, yeah. Hey, what works for you, that's fine too. I also had a colleague that when he came and interviewed at the company I was working at, he wore a suit. But the minute he was hired, he was in all black t-shirt, Levi's, and had all sorts of piercings and things that weren't there when he interviewed. So it was interesting. You do what you got to do to land a job. So, that was kind of interesting.
yep. So well, congratulations. Best of luck. How many more years you got?
I don't know. I think I've got a younger daughter in college that's got 3 more years of college, so I think I'll at least do that. I was toying with looking at I'm not. I'm not quite, I'm almost, well, this year I'll be 65. And so it's like Medicare kicks in. So, but it's like, so the rest of my family needs medical coverage, so where do you get that? My wife is working part-time. In fact, I couldn't have taken the 15% cut in the salary if my wife wasn't working. So she started back into her career. And so because she's working, then that made a little bit more flexibility in the salary I would take. And so, yeah, looking at healthcare is a big thing. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I was toying with taking retirement now, but that's just not going to work. So unfortunately, I'd like to. In fact, I told my wife, I think I like not working too much. So I'm going to have to go back to the grind here. But yeah, just keep plugging at it and realize that hey, you want to get those rejections because that means you're closer. And I mean, this job, I was not when I first saw it, I blew it off. I did not apply. I'm like, this is a dumb job. This is what this company sells water bottles. I'm not going to work. This is dumb. I'm an electrical safety guy. But I changed my mind. I broadened my horizons a bit, and it'll be a good. So I'm excited. And the hiring manager is really we connected, and I think that makes a big thing too. I interviewed. I think I mentioned another time was that I interviewed. In fact, the North Carolina company I interviewed with, they had two different divisions that had the same job function, and the one manager I interviewed with, there's like no way I don't want to work for that guy. And the other guy I did, and then I went to the on-site interviews. But this manager I'm working with, it clicked, and we understand, and we had some chemistry. And so I think that makes all the difference too, as to who you're going to be working for. So
Excellent. Well, congratulations.
thank you. Hang in there.
Also, one thing he's not telling us that the the product wasn't as I know that's a wrong word to use, but as sexy as some of the other products he had. He was with Traeger and anybody have one of those Sonic toothbrushes, and he was hoping to go for Bullfrog so he could get a couple Bullfrog hot tubs, as being the
Yeah,
compliance.
my kids were saying that, Dad, you've had really fun jobs you've worked at and you've brought home. It's like, I had 5 crock pots at one time, and I have a folding griddle, and I have ice cream makers, and I have a cotton candy machine, and I have, yeah, Traeger grills. There's 5 Traeger products sitting on my deck right now. And, my kids go, Dad, you got to find something else that's gonna be neat. And so yeah, I was talking to Steve, one of the companies I reached out to with just cold contact was Bullfrog Spas, and because that was a sexy job, Bullfrog Spas. But no, so this isn't as sexy, but it's a good job.
All right, next is Kayleen.
I just congratulations and thanks for sharing your journey. I know that sometimes I feel like it's a roller coaster, so I appreciate your honesty and feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Roger Minnick.
Well, congratulations, Brian. Like you and Mike, I've been in the IT field for um, over 30 years, and two of my jobs I had for about 15 years each. So, and I've been through this about 5 or 6 times already. Um, so I understand not wanting to continue interviewing and looking for work all the time. So, one question for you. Where did you actually find a job at? LinkedIn?
So it was, I believe it was LinkedIn. Let me look. I'll look at my log here as to where I got it from. Let's see. Boom.
And I have another follow-up question to that. Was it something that got posted immediately that you applied for, or was it out there for a week or two?
The job is still posted. I hope I get it. Uh, so I think I saw it on I think I saw it on LinkedIn, and then I actually went to their job site, or it took me to another site, as most companies do. So yeah, it was LinkedIn. It had been there for a while, like a couple weeks maybe. So, and actually to that point, when I first started my job search, I looked at some things, and I would actually save them on LinkedIn. If I'm interested in the job, I'd save it. And then later I'd go through my saved jobs and then apply to them. And I had a couple that, because I wasn't very quick, those went away. In fact, one of them was probably a better job, more local, and it went away because I wasn't fast, strike the steel while iron while it's hot, didn't do it. And so I had a couple of jobs like that I wasn't moving fast enough. So yeah, I'd say if you see it, apply for it. But because
Yeah.
I would queue them up and then that bit me a couple times, not acting quickly. But no, it was still there for a while. So
I've seen some where I've seen it, and the next day I went back and looked, and they pulled it because they had enough applicants. So
well,
you
I've
gotta,
seen them too where they've been reposted, which is an interesting concept. Is like they've let it run, they've got applicants, and then it says reposted. It's like it had it there for 5 weeks, and then you see one that says reposted one day ago. So it's like, what's going on there? I don't understand. They're not liking their applicants, but yeah, just keep on top of them. Watch what's going on.
well, congratulations again, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Jane.
I don't have any questions, just congratulations. I hope your wife's doing better from her surgery and good luck.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, she is. She's made a pretty much full recovery. She had a plate taken out of her arm that had been put in from a different surgery. So, anyway, so yeah, it's good. I wish
Awesome.
you good luck. Everybody good luck. Sorry,
Thank
Roger,
you.
wish you good luck too.
Okay. Next up is John Light.
Well, congratulations, Brian.
Thank you.
I would hire you. Seem like a really cool guy I'd like to hang with almost. I don't have any questions, but just let me say if something should happen in our presentation with the recording or anything else, I would do it with you one-on-one if necessary. So,
Oh, thanks, John. Appreciate it.
mm,
It sounds very interesting, and I really wanted to be sitting there live, but new job calls.
yeah, sure. Congratulations again.
Thank you. Good luck on your search.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Tammy.
Congratulations, Brian.
Thanks, Tammy.
I think you pretty much covered everything. You were very thorough in your presentation. So thanks again.
Mhm. Yeah, good luck to you, and remember, go for those. Make the interviews not stressful. Just realize it doesn't matter.
Right, right.
I think that was my saving grace on both of these was that I wasn't like this is the perfect job. This I have to get it. I after that I was like no, it's like these are good. I'll go see. I'm interviewing the company. That type of thing. So I think that was a helpful have that mindset for me. So I wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Tara.
First of all, congratulations. My question is, which AI were you using, or were you using a number of different AIs?
Let's see. I happen to use because it was on my browser was Copilot.
Okay.
And I use that for doing art, doing the photographs for people for my in fact my LinkedIn has the pencil sketch, which I think Steve did the image. He captured me during a one-on-one chat and then we walked through doing the modifications with Copilot. I don't know if you used Copilot, Steve, or you used something else, but
I use Chat GPT, but I realized I was trying to use Copilot within Microsoft Office, and I need to do the standalone. It works a lot better because I was trying to figure out how to do it when I was in the middle of a typing something, and it didn't seem to respond like my Chat GPT did.
yeah, so I used Copilot. That was just because it was there on my desktop and I just clicked it. So I don't think it matters a heck of a lot. I think that they probably do a pretty close to equivalent job. So
Yeah. Well, and I also have Copilot, so thank you and good luck.
yeah, thanks. Good luck to you.
And one of the episodes, we'll call it an episode for Brian, was when he took Tammy's picture, and I was amazed with the glare on the glasses, how it could do all that, and I think I did a great job. I mean, it was I know you taught Tammy, and I'm glad you gave him permission because I thought it was really cool to see, all the different things it did, and like you said, asked it one thing and it added a smile. I thought that was cool. Next up
Yeah.
is Jason.
Well, congratulations. Yeah, you're talking about the difference between doing, electrical product safety and and this water bottle, more chemical processes we're talking about. Um, I mean, how much of, you know, did you study electrical engineering to do electrical
So, so I,
products?
so I basically studied. It's interesting because I started my college career as being an electrical engineer. It was a little bit too heavy on math for me. So the university had a Department of Industrial Technology, which was more what they said the description was. It was like middle management for manufacturing industries, and I took a digital electronics emphasis. So I got accounting courses, whereas the double E people didn't get accounting courses or whatever.
Right,
But ultimately, I ended up working at Underwriters Laboratories for 8 years is early in my career, and so that gave me the background and kind of on the job training as to how to do product safety. And so that my whole career has been along electrical safety. But at the same time, when I got into these consumer products, if you have like for Traeger grills, you have the grill grates have food contact. The
oh, right.
toothbrushes, you're holding it in your
For
hand and you're sticking it in your mouth.
your
So
mouth,
there are those aspects to them. And so I had exposure to it. And then I have to say that, artificial intelligence is going to be a boon. It already has been to me because I went and went in and typed in and said, "Hey," and I actually have to do a little bit more research because there's some AI models that do technical things better than others. But even just going into Copilot and typing in, "Tell me all the food contact requirements for North America and for Europe." Or worldwide. And I have like a printout of like a quarter inch sheets of paper because and then I would go in and say summarize, it'd tell me the particular standard and standards are just if anyone's ever has insomnia, you can read a
yeah,
technical standard, whether it's a mil spec or a safety or whatever. They're just terrible. And it actually summarized and it says here's the main points in there. And so you can have it condense it or you can expand it or whatever. And so that's giving me a much greater depth of knowledge. I mean, I have a surface knowledge of these things. And in fact, it was interesting because like the toothbrushes, that was Philips, Sonicare. They have 80,000 employees. They had a whole division that would handle that stuff. And so I knew about it, but I never had to do it.
right.
And so uh, it's interesting that the AI has just been helped to condense requirements and summarize things and go through and read everything for you essentially, and then you can spot check it and glean what you need to out of what it comes back with. But yeah, I found that reading through that, it listed some standards in the job description for this position, and I had never heard of them. And so I type it in and then say, what's the main points of this particular standard? And then if they had asked me, which I prepared for that, if they asked me, hey, well, what would you do? That was one of the interview questions that came up. What are the steps you would take to certify a product? And I'm like,
Right.
okay, I know what I would do, but does this fit into what someone else would do? So using those type of tools has helped a lot to just give me confidence. And then I'll be using it. I'm sure I'll be using it to actually get down into the weeds of these things and doing those type of things. So it's been really, really helpful. And actually, I moved into an area that I probably, like I said, I completely discounted the job because it wasn't down my main path, but it was on the sides and I had exposure to it. So it made a lot of sense to actually apply then.
Well, and yeah, I saw Steve's email that you were going to be doing your landing talk today. And so I was thinking, well, you're a product safety guy. And that made me think, well, Underwriters Laboratory, do they still exist? I don't hear about them anymore.
Yeah.
But I swear when I was a kid, they were I'm much more aware of them. I don't know why.
Yeah, the
But you
reason
obviously answered the question. They still
Yeah, the reason,
exist.
just as a side note, the reason that you saw UL Underwriters Laboratories marks is because they had a monopoly. Um,
Uh,
they had a monopoly, and then other companies petitioned, and it's administered through OSHA. that you if you want to certify products, you have to jump through all these hoops and do all these things. And so there's a multitude of agencies now. The biggest one is probably ETL or Intertech that also certifies products. But there's a bunch of other ones. In fact, one of the two jobs back, I took the job and they said, "Oh, we use this. We use SGS." And I'm like, "Who the heck is SGS?" But they were a valid they call them nationally recognized test laboratories, and they had met the requirements and they were certifying products. But yeah, so UL had a monopoly, and then there's now a lot of companies that do it.
That's
So
interesting. Yeah, because like I say, it was just something I I always was aware of, but and I guess I kind of thought it was kind of an official thing, it was something coming out of the government or not. But if it's a monopoly, it's almost the same, but not
it's
quite.
mainly it used to be the government specified that you will use a third party, and that was UL. But yeah, so now it's mainly driven by insurance companies and liability,
Yeah,
and so big box companies. There is no law that says you have to have a third party certification, but if you want to sell anything anywhere, typically those companies, insurance
right.
carriers, or they themselves say you have to have a mark on it. It's interesting. I noticed more and more now. In fact, we just bought a heating pad for my wife. It has no certification. You buy it through Amazon, it doesn't have any certification. In fact, we've done for things like air heaters and other things that are not supervised. I tell her, let's ask in the search engine safety certification and see if we find one because they seem to
Well,
be going away. That particularly like Amazon and other places that sell them, they just don't care.
that's disturbing.
Yeah.
Um, no, because like I say, coming from a safety product company, that's disturbing. Um, yeah, because we made airbags. That was a big deal. And getting them bought off was a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I say, you're moving from this, you know, obviously the number of units your company's going to be generating is going to be orders of magnitude compared to what you other companies you would be doing. So you're going to have a lot of impact if
Oh yeah, and it's
especially if
yeah.
there's
So
issues.
you have yeah. What's our liability exposure? Yeah, it was interesting too because the Traeger grills maybe it's 100,000 per year or something.
Right.
At the tie in. Philips Sonicare toothbrushes that was in the millions of units. And so you end up your liability exposure just ramps up. So
Right.
yeah, I don't know how many water bottles they sell, but they sell a lot.
Well, congratulations again, and thanks for
Thanks.
being here.
Good luck to you, Jason.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian, did you work in Illinois?
No, I've actually that's the main offices is Northbrook, Illinois for Underwriters Laboratories. I've been there before, but no, I worked actually in Santa Clara, which I think is San Jose office. They closed the Santa Clara down and moved it, but yeah, I was in California for about 8 years.
Yeah, I knew a few people that worked over there in Northbrook, Illinois, at the main facility. So just wondering.
Yeah, and I had been out to their Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. They have Underwriters Laboratory lab there too, and I had been out there, so I'd been to North Carolina before. So the job out there wasn't totally different.
It's a good company to have on your resume. That's pretty cool.
In fact, it's so long ago that I have actually in my resume, it's not part of my regular job thing. It just has I have a section down there that says additional relevant experience. And I list three bullets there, and one of them's Underwriters Laboratories. Because yeah, doing that job function, that helps.
You're muted,
I'm
Steve.
muted. Um, Brian, anything else you want to share as that they need to be doing or should stop doing?
No, I just think is that I think like I said, I've talked over and over about the interview process and just make it not such a big thing. I think it was really eye-opening though to have AI generate potential questions based on the job. That kind of opened my eyes. And I will stick in the job interview questions that I like that's from 2016 or whatever. But I'll put those in there because I really like those. So I think it's like, do a lot of research, um, and then make it not so important, and then be open to other things too. I mean, we really, when I started the job search, it was like I wouldn't even consider relocating, but it got to the point where, yeah, we considered relocating. but it really depended on you have to figure out what's important, and that was hard to do. Like when we moved from in 2000, we moved from San Jose, California to Massachusetts near Boston, Massachusetts. And I told my wife when they moved us, we'll never have this experience again. It was one of those ones where they hire you and they say, okay, stand back. The movers will come in and take the things out of your cupboards and wrap them and stick them in the box and we'll ship your cars. We'll do everything. You don't have to lift a finger. And I says, we'll probably never ever have that again. And I think that's the situation here. I had one company that wanted to have us go to Austin, Texas, and they said they'd provide $10,000 moving expenses. The one which was in North Carolina, which was Bosch, they said they'd provide $25,000. But I don't think either one of those. I think we moved ourselves by us boxing it and us renting pods. We spent like $30,000 to move back from Massachusetts to Utah. And so it's like, I don't want to do that where I'm in charge of it. I want somebody to say, yeah. And I was hopeful with the North Carolina company because the people who handled my travel and reimbursements, it was a relocation company. It's like, so they hired them to do my interview stuff. And I was thinking, well, maybe if I get a job offer, they'll say, oh, we'll do everything for you too. I mean, there used to be a day when the companies would even buy your house or they have somebody who makes an offer on your house. You don't even have to sell your house. I think those days might be gone. But no, 10,000, 25,000 in my mind, that was not enough to actually cover moving expenses across the country for a whole household, at least for the amount of junk I have. So anyway, but no, I say, ease the pressure on yourself, do a lot of research, feel comfortable with knowing that you are prepared. Go for it and, use AI to your advantage, either on resumes, cover letters, whatever, and just proofread what it comes up with. I've had some very interesting things in my cover letters that like, no, I have not done that. So anyway, but no, hang in there, keep a positive outlook. I really, really got really depressed at the start. So, hang in there and maybe broaden your, if you've been there doing it for a while, maybe consider some other jobs. I wasn't going to, and I did, and that's the job I have.
Brian, if I'm putting you on the spur of the moment here, but you've made some cool things. I happen to have a couple cool things that you've made. Do you have those close at hand that you can
Yeah,
share?
yeah, I have one.
And I mean, yeah. So Brian has a I think it's called a 3D printer, and it is cool. It is cool the things he's made with that. So I don't know which things he's going to grab. One of them is I call it an Easter item. Um, and uh, and and my granddaughter plays with that egg every time she comes to the house.
Egg. Grab an egg. Yeah, Steve had to mention the egg. That's okay. So yeah, so Easter too. I'm a person of faith, and my wife was saying we don't have much Easter decorations really. We like Christmas. We do a lot of Christmas decorations, but anyway, so I have a couple fun tools because I'm a maker. I like to make things. I like to create things. And one of them was a 3D printer, as Steve mentioned. And we had my wife and daughter said, "Hey, Dad, we found this." Because really, what you do is there's tons and tons and millions of files out there that you can download and then have the 3D printer you have print it. And this is an egg, and the egg it slides to where it slides amongst itself. And it's a fidget toy essentially, but it's an egg. But so that was just 3D printed in place, didn't have to assemble it or do anything. It's just an egg.
What material is that?
This is plastic, so it's PLA plastic. That's 3D most popular material used in 3D printers. But anyway, and so to that end too, also it was interesting. They had a Easter item. My wife saw this at Deseret Book. She saw they have two different sizes, and they were pretty pricey. And she says, "Well, because you've been unemployed, or whatever, I don't feel comfortable buying this." And so what I did is I went on the Deseret Book site, and they had pictures of this from a couple different angles. And it's gotten to the point with AI. I downloaded the pictures and then fed it to a website that used AI to generate the 3D model to make this. So this was actually I didn't even find a file. I found a photo of the thing. And downloaded it and had AI create the 3D model, and then I 3D printed it. It's pretty, but the thing Steve was talking about, I also have a recent acquisition, which is a bit over the top, but I bought a laser cutter. And so I actually made, let's see, made this. This is birch plywood and walnut plywood, and it's amazing to watch the machine. Just you take it's a 12 by 12 piece of plywood, and the laser goes in. You put the file in it. I found these different parts of it. I found the crown of thorns. I found this tomb separately. I combined them, and then this is just etched by the laser on the surface of the wood. So, fun things to.
But the laser cutter made those thorns.
Yeah, so I go on. I'll search an SVG file because that's the file it likes
Right.
flavor. SVG file of Crown of Thorns got a ton of hits. This thing came from Etsy. It was the digital file was like $3, so I spent $3 to buy the digital file, and then went in and had it. And it's so wild to watch it because it moves
Yeah.
about this quick, cutting it and cut that out. And then I went, and then it's actually 2 sheets thick.
Oh, I
And
see.
actually the back, so the birch is also has that same perimeter cut to it. So I just manipulated the file.
Oh, right, right,
And
right,
so
right.
the back follows the same shape. And then I just cut it out. And then I found this at another place. And actually, it wasn't quite how we wanted. So it had kind of a door there too. And it was like, it didn't look right. So I manipulated that, took that part out, and then just cut this piece and glued these together. And then my wife had seen something and she didn't like the quote. So we just changed the quote, and that's just etched. It just burns lightly on the surface.
Right.
It's just,
So your wife wouldn't let you buy the tomb that you saw at Deseret Book, but she'll let you buy a laser cutter.
well,
It
that
seems like
that
a pretty
was
good
that
deal.
was some time ago
Ah,
when I bought the laser cutter, and actually we sold some property and made a substantial amount of money, which we're now having to deal with capital gains tax, but we planned on it.
ooh,
Yeah, so it was a pricey item, but I'd
I
been
bet.
following it and wanting one because they're really really pretty wild with things you can do. So
Well, once I heard of 3D printer, I almost like I knew I had to have one, even though I managed not to make myself do it.
yeah, there's this
Thank you for letting me put you on the
my
spur of
wife
the moment.
likes elephants. This is one that didn't turn out correctly, but she likes elephants and she wanted a business card holder for
Oh,
an
that's not bad.
elephant. So I combined two things. I actually found an elephant file, and then I actually found someone who'd done a card holder, and I cut them up and then stuck them together and then printed it. So
Right.
um, it's missing its trunk. So, but
Uh-oh.
anyway, so that's a big departure from job team, but yeah.
But fun stuff, fun stuff. Well, I want to give a huge warm thank you.
You're
And
very welcome. I wish everybody the best of luck and hang in there. It's not easy.
okay, I'm going to end this recording. And I don't think Brian's leaving, but he might, but I hope he doesn't.
No, I'm
Okay.
gonna stick around.
All right.